All right, well, it's official. This is a 1975 Arctic Cat Panther 440, and I did a bunch of work to it, cleaned it out. I guess it didn't need too much. I cleaned the carburetor, got it running, and this thing does not want to run. So I'm done with this carburetor. This is one of those Walbro carbs with 100 different layers to it, and what a pain in the butt rebuilding this thing. So one of the real popular things to do with these old sleds is to swap this out for a Mikuni carb. So I had this one laying around. I believe this is it's either 32 or 34 millimeter carb. Perfect to use for this. You just have to get this mount, and I had that laying around too. The only thing I had to buy was this throttle cable. Hopefully that fits in here and works. One of the other issues I was having with this machine is the throttle has a like safety switch to it. It's like a TSS type switch. So there's a magnet in there that will kill the engine if it's not getting spark. And I had that problem as well, so I disconnected that. So at least we have the spark. And it runs it on gas. It just doesn't run through this carburetor. So let's pull this off and stick this other one on there and see how this goes. See if we can get this to work right. I don't know. One of the issues we may have here is this sitting like this. A lot of them, they should sit a little more level, and it can cause issues with the float. If it doesn't run right, then we will have to get a different connector here for the body to mount that on there. Otherwise, well, we'll see it. I mean, it is a snowmobile, it is a dirt bike. Well, dirt bikes run just fine when they're going up, down, whichever direction, and I guess if you leave it parked a certain way, it could drain the gas through it, but it's going to have a, we have to find a fuel pump for this, because basically with this, the tank is in the back, and this would run a double system with line coming in and a line going out, and then a vacuum line pumping the diaphragm in there to pump the fuel. By getting rid of this type of carburetor, we don't have the fuel pump, so we're going to add another one. I have a little trick to that, and once I get that off, I can put this back together under there. So let me get to it here. It's really a piece of cake. You pull off this nut, this one, they're just two flatheads, and then these two, and the whole thing comes right off. So let me do that quick. Okay, two nuts both are off on that. This is loose, that's loose. So boom, that's out of the way. Pull the choke cable, that's out of the way. And then pull the thing off. Now I just have to unhook the fuel lines, and she's done. Now one of these lines we won't need again because, I can't believe it's so tight on there. One is just the return line and one is the vacuum line. The vacuum will hook to something else, but now we can get this off of here. This carburetor is absolute pain in the butt. It was the worst one I've ever rebuilt. WDA 31. I think it's right inside there. It seems like it's right. Just, oh my God, what a pain. So hopefully this Mikuni is the answer to this nightmare that we have. Now I think the next hardest problem is going to be getting the throttle cable out of here. So before I hook this carburetor on, I want to do some stuff down here, clean this up, and put this cover back on now that I can get to it with the screwdriver a little easier. Because I was checking all my stuff before, the coil and... Okay, one of the most confusing throttle cable setups I've ever dealt with as well. This whole housing, it's in there and you can't tell what is what, how it comes apart. There's no clips. Finally wiggling and prying, I got this to come off of there. Now I can get to the cable and change this. So, God, and this is the stupid magnetic part inside here. We're gonna get rid of all this if we can and change it with the other cable, but figured I'd show you how to get this apart. God, that was a nightmare. I didn't want to break any of this, you know, special fancy stuff here. Okay, so I stuck the carburetor on there, and I think the hardest part of this whole swap is going to be figuring out how to get the throttle cable to hook up top and getting this part through the cage in the bottom. So let's see what we can do here. I think we got to take this off of here for the adjustment on that. As long as that's a really weird adjustment on that. Okay, let's see what happens here. Take that off, put that through there with that. Get rid of that little piece. And for now, give me as much play as possible. Pull that all the way out. And we have our spring. Now this is the tricky part, is putting all these stupid pieces in here, because it has to slip through the side of this needle. The needle stays down in there. But you got to get it in the side of that and lock it in there through this pin. So it's a little tricky to get. Lose the needle. Put that right through there like that, and then over. So now that's in. I don't know if you can see that, but that locks that in the middle. Then that pin's in there. And now our throttle cable is hooked up. So when we pull that, it's working. Now I can put this back in. Now, as far as the choke goes, I just have the manual choke for the moment. If this gets working well, then I'll probably buy a cable or something that I can attach that and hook that back up to have the actual throttle cable or choke cable work. But for now, that should do. So, at the moment, I think we have throttle. I just have to, it's working. I have to figure out how to hook this up, because here's my dilemma. The old throttle cable has this stupid point on there. And the new one, you can see, has this tab which fits right into the throttle, which is what is on the end of this stupid thing. So if you look, they put a tiny little 4-inch or 3-inch throttle cable here, and this is that safety switch. There's a little magnet in here that trips with this. I'm gonna see, I don't know, I might cut this down so it gets to this point, and then I can fit it all back in there and still use this and just bypass the switch, but then it'll still work with this cable, because otherwise, how do I keep this cable where I need it without it just moving in there? So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I think that's going to be a problem with 74 and 75 Panthers, because they have this oh man, what is that called? CDI, that's what it is. They have a CDI in here, so it's a little bit different ignition system, and of course the stupid safety feature. So let me keep moving on this. Let me bolt this down, and I have to get the fuel pump. So let me show you how we're going to get that. Okay, based on how this cable works and where everything is, I think this will be just fine if we cut this. This is the part number for this cable, if you happen to need one. See if this works. Like I said, I'm going to cut the point. Hopefully, let's give it a whirl here. Maybe I can put this. Let's see so you can watch what I'm doing here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Okay. So to do this, just have my dikes, and I'm just going to nip the ends off this, and it's under a lot of tension for this. I think it's going to work just fine. And this is just lead anyway, so it should be a piece of cake to mush through. Maybe it's not just lead, it should be lead. I guess if I had bigger dikes it might be easier. These are pretty dull. Wow. Okay, that's not working. Maybe I need to go grab a different pair of these. Well, yeah, that was it. I just had to get dikes that were a little sharper, and it snipped that right off. So let's try this side here. Watch your eyes. Boom. Okay. So now, let's see. I don't know if I have to prune more of that. I might. Maybe not. No, I think that we could probably get that in there. Maybe just tidy up a little bit of these edges. I don't know if I want to make any points on anything. Maybe sand it so it's not so sharp. Definitely don't want it hanging up on anything when you do this. You want to make sure this is very smooth in there. Because if that grips anything inside that, that could hold that cable up. Alright, now I have this little sleeve I got to remember to put back over this. And now, wait, did I put that the right way? Yes, that goes like that. This came through here somehow. God, what a stupid design. All in the name of safety. I don't know, you watch my channel, you'll realize I'm not the biggest guy on safety. I think a lot of it's overrated. Sure, we should be safe, but come on, we gotta live too. Alright, so that's in and that fits, and then this cap should be able to go over top of that and hold all that in. I think. Where'd it go? Why am I hitting on here? way on. Oh, maybe that's why that groove goes on the top. Ta-da! Okay, cool. This stupid safety or kill switch isn't... Everything's stupid with this machine. I don't know if you noticed. The carburetor, the kill switch, the safety switch, the whole way they put this together. What a nightmare. All right, cool. I think we're actually getting somewhere with this. And I'm glad this is staying together. I really like that. All right, now that I have that in, let me hook the throttle cable up. Here's where we're at here. I just have to hook that into the back of there, and that's done. So let's see if we can get this. There's that. Cool, we have throttle cable now. Drop that, put our magical little C-clip in there. Don't lose this one, this is an odd size. I'm very nervous about dropping that. Seems like you always have to drop these 2 or 3 times before you get them on. Alright, that's on. Cool! Well, that was our biggest problem, was figuring out how we were going to do throttle. So now we have throttle, and I'm sure that's working in there. I have to adjust it so we get full throttle, because you can see it's got a little more to go. But cool, getting somewhere. So we need a fuel pump. So I figured we come out to the boneyard, and I probably have one in this old snowmobile here, but that's pretty much a complete sled. However, this old golf cart, you know, it's seen better days, and it's been around here a while. Let's see if it still has a fuel pump on here. Where did that go? It would have been right here. Right here, that's what we're looking for. Might be a little different than what it should be, but a fuel pump is a fuel pump, and I think that'll work just fine. We hook a vacuum line to one side and hook it up to the carb on the other. So let me pull that out of here, see what I need. Yeah, looks like a 10 millimeter, of course, probably something like that. But that should work for a fuel pump. Okay, well, here's where we are right now. This is the fuel pump from the golf cart, and I hooked the vacuum line here. Here's our fuel line coming in and fuel line out to the carb. I then primed this, so there is fuel into the fuel pump. Basically just suck on the end of this until some gas comes up in there. Now, choke. Let's see. Yeah, push it down for choke on these suckers. Okay, let's see what's going to happen here with this. I don't know. It's going to take a couple pulls because we have to get fuel down into the bowl here. So, well, let's see what's going to happen. See fuel leaking anywhere yet. Still. Woo! Tiring. I guess it should run for a minute and choke. She's idling. Yeah, it's alive and running and idling. I almost want to say it might have something to do with the float not being level that's making it drip fuel like that. I may be able to adjust the float in here. Some of them have adjustable tangs so they can sit on an angle, or I have to get a different boot that sits on a better angle. For now, I might take and just run some tubing up, but it sounds like it's going to choke it out if I do. Huh. Pretty darn cool. So there you go. There's the Mikuni carburetor swap. And the cool thing is, I'm still using all the stock stuff here. I didn't change anything or deform anything, so you can very easily go back to this junk if you want to, but what a nightmare. So cool to see this running again. Nice new just gotta figure out this little fuel issue here. And that's that. So Mr. Brian's Amazing World. Okay, I want to give you a quick little update on what I'm doing here. Basically, because the carburetor is sitting so crooked, I decided to make a mount so it could sit level. And I used a tiny piece of pipe in here so I could sleeve this, the radiator hose. Now I have to cut this. I'm going to cut it on an angle probably here. So when it's sitting against the engine here, this comes up on an angle, and then when I mount the carburetor will mount flush right about there. So somehow I'm just going to take and make a nice cut as close as I can get to this, but still leave it, but be into part of this angle. So right through here should do. So now you have a simple little fix of using the flange plus this, the sleeve so it can't crush, and then this will fit over the carburetor and tighten on there. I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, well, in the process of making this little adapter here, this is what you can see is left of it. It's the piece, radiator hose here, cut, fit. Little piece of pipe inside to sleeve that, and that'll fit right on to the adapter of the snowmobile, and that should level out the carburetor. Pretty cool. Now, we had this carburetor on there, and I did some research and was checking into the jetting. And this jet, it turns out, has a 230 in there. Pretty darn small jet, which yes, it'll run, but it won't really give it much fuel flow. This carb, I took this apart and I checked, and this had a 360 in it, and that's more what we're looking for, 360 to a 400, somewhere in that range with this particular 400 or 440cc two-stroke snowmobile engine. So based on that, I was going to just switch the jets. Then I started poking around, and this carburetor is almost brand new. It's just been sitting in a little bit of dust. So I hooked the choke up into this and set this up with everything, and now I'm just going to put the throttle cable in this and run this carburetor and call it a day. So let's go put this one on and see how this works. Hopefully this little modification here is all we needed. Okay, now that jet, the 360 is going to flow a whole lot more fuel than that 230. Now what's going to happen is the 230 will go and it'll be like riding like vroom, vroom. Now this thing with the 360 will be wham, wham. It'll hit a little bit harder. It'll get it that chunk of fuel you want and get it up and move. So the other one will work and it'll run smooth, but you're not going to be taking advantage of what this carburetor can really do. How about that? Hope you like that. Hope you learned something there. We have quite a few carb videos where we do a lot of different things. I mean, we put the 400EX carb on a 350X three-wheeler. That was a big one. A lot of people love that one. So, you know, Check it out, subscribe, and you have a great day. Go out and ride and play with your toys.